This episode is about learning how to learn using John Locke's essay concerning human understanding, which is a foundational work in epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. In this episode, I'm going to share his simple framework for how knowledge is built from the ground up so you can use it to learn anything more clearly and quickly. Locke starts at the very beginning with the human mind at birth. He writes that the mind is white paper void of all characters, without any ideas. How comes it to be furnished? Whence comes it by that vast store which the busy and boundless fancy of man has painted on it with an almost endless variety? Whence has it all the materials of reason and knowledge? To this I answer in one word, from experience. Locke says that when we are born, our minds are completely blank, but through experience, we begin to fill it with ideas, which Locke says only comes through our senses, like our sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. For example, we take in the color yellow, the feeling of warmth, or the shape of a circle, and the mind stores all of these ideas. And when the mind stores these ideas, it can reflect on them to form more complex knowledge. Locke says the operations of the mind are to compare, combine, and abstract these simple ideas. For example, the mind can compare the feeling of warmth and cold to form the idea of room temperature. It combines the shape of a circle, the color yellow, and the feeling of warmth to describe the sun. By recognizing that a softball is circular, yellow, and hard, whenever the mind sees an object with those qualities, it recognizes it as a softball. In this way, simple sensory inputs are used to form the more complex ideas that help us to understand the world. Locke writes, "Our observation employed either about external sensible objects or about the internal operations of our minds, perceived and reflected on by ourselves, is that which supplies our understandings with all the materials of thinking. These two are the fountains of knowledge from whence all the ideas we have, or can naturally have, do spring." And here's the takeaway for this episode. The process of learning is 2 steps. First, we observe and gather up the basic ideas, and second, our mind then reflects on these ideas to form more complex knowledge. If we don't have the basic ideas first, then the mind has nothing to reflect on. For example, if you want to learn how to play the piano, start with learning the different notes and key locations, then use that understanding to learn sheet music, and then practice turning sheet music into sound. If you want to learn how to profitably invest your money in the stock market, learn first what revenue means, then operating expenses, then build from that understanding how to read an income statement and balance sheet, and ultimately how to value a company. The key to learning both of these skills, as well as any other skill, is to start with learning the simple building blocks. And often, even knowing the right building blocks to learn, which are important, which are not, is a challenge. The terms within a new field can take a while to learn, almost like learning a new language. But without knowledge of these basic terms, the mind cannot use them to form more complex knowledge. To conclude, no one who is a master began as a master. Their mind, just like ours, was a blank slate at the beginning, which they then filled with simple ideas gotten through experience that their mind then reflected on and reasoned with to form complex knowledge. Therefore, the way to learn a new subject is to begin with learning the basics, which the mind can then grapple with to form a complex understanding of any given subject. Thanks so much for watching. The goal of this channel is for every episode to give you one takeaway that you can apply to your life today. And in this case, it is a framework for how to learn anything. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if this kind of material interests you, then subscribe to follow along, and I hope to see you in the next episode.